Well, they are America's children left behind. As immigration remains a divisive issue in the U.S., the number of deportation cases hits a record high. And as a result, parents that are deported are forced to leave their children behind. Many of these kids grew up in the United States, many of them born here, so they're U.S. citizens. According to the Immigration and Customs Enforcement, 45,000 such parents were removed from the U.S. in the first half of this year. Meanwhile, the president has vowed to only deport criminals and not separate families. But in many cases, that is exactly what's happening. Earlier, I was joined by Ron Gochez, community organizer. I asked him what happens to the children of illegal immigrants who are deported. Take a listen.
You know, the effects are really devastating. I'm a teacher in South Los Angeles where this happens on a daily basis where, you know, these kids are constantly in fear that their parents are going to be deported. And then for those who have to, you know, this day comes when their parents are deported, you know, they can't learn in my classroom. They constantly have to think about how they're going to survive. Those that are left here, they have to think about everything that's going to happen. You know, their parents are deported to countries that they haven't been to in years. So this is absolutely devastating. It separates families. It's something that's really tragic. At a time in this country where, you know, we've been promised immigration reform, we've been promised so many things, but we see that the great majority of people who are being deported have no criminal record at all, besides simply just being in this country. So it's something that has to stop, and it's a crisis. There's over 5 million children in this country who have at least one parent who is undocumented. So this is affecting millions of families every single day.
And we are talking about children that are American citizens, right? Or at least in a lot of these cases.
Right, we're talking about 5 million children who are U.S. citizens in this country who have at least one parent who is undocumented. So, you know, this affects, you know, the United States in every level and in every part of the society. That's why it's not something that just affects one community, it affects the entire country. We have to see, you know, these kids, when they grow up with or without parents, it's going to have a huge impact on who are going to be the teachers, the cops, the doctors, the lawyers of tomorrow. So this is a big issue that affects everyone in the United States.
And the Obama administration set a record on deportations back in 2011 with nearly 400,000 undocumented immigrants removed by Immigration and Customs Enforcement. This is the same president that has vowed to only remove criminals. So, I mean, you're saying that this is not the case. So essentially, do you think that he has failed to fulfill this promise?
Absolutely. You know, it's been extremely disappointing. It's been a complete letdown. Not only did he break the record in 2011 for, you know, the most deportations in a year, he broke the record 3 years in a row. And this, you know, he's deported more people in one term than Bush did in 2 terms. And so this is absolutely devastating to the undocumented community. So, you know, when they say that they're focusing on criminals, the numbers speak for themselves. And even the numbers that the, you know, ICE or the Department of Homeland Security has released shows that more than 70% of all of the people who have been deported had no criminal record, had any ties to anything. The only crime that they had was coming to this country looking for a better life and working to give their families a better life.
And meanwhile, this comes while immigration remains a very hot button issue here in the U.S. Republicans continue to advocate this hardline, no mercy approach to immigration, advocating these programs like ending in-state tuition for some immigrants at public universities. We even hear of some of them calling for an actual physical fence to surround the border of Mexico, also requiring U.S. businesses to use this E-Verify system to make sure that nobody is illegal that's working for companies here in the U.S. How do you feel about some of these measures they are proposing?
Yeah, you know, that speaks to the political climate that this country currently faces. It's such a xenophobic climate that you have a situation where we have the Republican Party and the Democratic Party almost trying to outdo each other to see who can be the most anti-immigrant, because they see immigration as an issue that can be used to gather support for their base in these upcoming elections in November. You know, the Democrats promises immigration reform, while the Republicans take these hard stances on hardline stances on immigration. But what we see in practice is that everything that the Republicans are saying is being, you know, carried out by the Democratic Party administration. Like the numbers that you mentioned before, the record number of deportations, the policies like secure communities or insecure communities, as we call it. These are policies not being implemented by the Republican Party and their rhetoric. These are being fully implemented and in unprecedented ways by a Democratic Party administration. So for our community, we're in a situation where we can't rely on either party to solve this problem for us, because we feel that both parties are attacking us. One, by mouth, and the other one through actions.
So you're saying that it doesn't matter what the political spectrum is, that this is a problem, whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, whoever it is in power, nobody is really doing anything to address this problem or help these people, help these children that are American citizens.
Not at all. I think that what's happening is that when we see, for example, what's happening in Arizona with Sheriff Arpaio and Governor Jan Brewer, I think the Democrats use them as almost to take some attention away from the fact that the ones who are really deporting all of these people is ICE, who's under the control right now of the Democratic Party. Arpaio's not deporting these people. Brewer's not deporting these people. It's ICE, and we have to know who's calling the shots. That's why, yes, it really doesn't matter which party is in power for undocumented people. They feel completely under attack by both parties. The Democratic Party just does it with a nicer tone of voice, but regardless, it's still separating our families.